It is time to strengthen your faith, deepen your understanding of the Word of God, move from poverty to prosperity, and rest in the wealthy place. Join Dr. Osara Emafai, the lead pastor of the Lakeview Foursquare Gospel Church, Lagos, Nigeria, and founder of Ed John School of Management, an alumnus of Oxford University, Cranfield University, Hertfordshire University, and University of Lagos, for an informative, educative, and impactful program, Wealthy Place. Join us on Foursquare TV.
I want to thank you for coming to be with us today on this episode of The Wealthy Place. I'll be talking on something that is particularly instructive for everyone to be able to move on through the levels of the wealthy place. You must understand. I told you, earlier episode that there are 5 levels of the wealthy place. And you find that domiciled in the scripture of Psalm 66 verse 12. You see there, the wealthy place. So, and going before that, if you look at verse 11 or verse 10, you'll see what God said about that. So, there are certain things you go through to assess the wealthy place. The ultimate wealthy place, some might actually be having a confusion and see it as earthly. I told you there are 2 dimensions of the wealthy place. There is the physical dimension and there is the eternal dimension. And what God desires for his own children is to achieve both. Not one, not this or this. It's both. It's both that brings you to a point of significance. But because he knows that people who, God is God, he's sovereign, he knows all of us. Even before we are born, he knows us. He told Jeremiah that before you were born, I already ordained you to be a prophet unto your nations. Before Esau was born, God already knew I was going to be running around the bush and that Jacob was going to be staying with the mother. So these things are known by God. And because of that, he then allowed the access to the wealthy place, the 5th level of the wealthy place, to be based on people's capacity to handle difficulties, people's capacity to make certain decisions and all that. And that was why when God promised the Israelites, I'm taking you to a land of that flowed with milk and honey, at the point in which they were going to enter, when God looked at them again, he said, no. If these people enter the way they are, they will not be able to cope with the devil. Because every level has its own devil. That's what John of Asia says. And essentially that's exactly true. That the devil in that wealthy place, land flow with milk and honey, can these people handle it? God then decided to speak to them. He said, now, I will now give it to you little by little until you have increased in your capacity to handle the challenges here. I will not give you the entire place. That is still the principle of the wealthy place. Little by little until you have increased in your capacity to get to the 5th level. And that 5th level is a convergence of both the eternal and then the physical. And at that point, you're going to walk in the kingdom of heaven. And so today, I'm going to be talking to you particularly on thinking big. On thinking big. Now, I was inspired to talk about this for ministry and for those in the marketplace after I spent some time reading the life of Ben Carson. Ben Carson was the dullest man, the dumbest fellow in his class. There was no father figure to take care of him. Himself and his brother, they were just two brothers. And then they had a mother who didn't go to school. The mother sometimes would be looking at a report of Ben Carson, be turning it upside down, and be saying, Ben Carson, he would turn it upside down. Because the mother didn't go to school. But there was something about that woman of God. She was a Christian. She believed in God, was taking the children to school. But this boy remained in his class all day. He won't pass. He will always be behind. Everybody will be laughing at him. Until the mother then spoke to his life one day. Because he liked watching television as well. And he spoke to him. He said, don't you want yourself to be watched on the television? The small Ben Carson was looking at the mother. The way in which you will be watched on television is for you to take your face out of the television and go and study. and go and study. If you study, a time will come, you will be the one people are watching. As against you getting glued to TV. Ben Carson took that advice. And the rest is story. We know what became of Ben Carson. And they wrote the book, Thinking Big. I will take you through that life. And I know you are going to be impacted by it. So, the bane of the lives of several people and business is lack of capacity to think big. Dr. Ben Carson told the story of his life from being the worst student in class to becoming not only the best, but more importantly, the first black neurosurgeon in Johns Hopkins University, the first. In 1987, he achieved a first in the world. Not just achieved a first as black, a first in the world. Just get me this first. A first in medical history by successfully separating Siamese twins joined at the back of their head. Successful because both boys survived. Until that time, it has never been done. Either one of the children died or both died. Ben Carson was the first person to do it. This dumb black boy who listened to the mother and said, build capacity in yourself. At some point, rather than you watching people, people will be watching you. See the difference? How God could take somebody from the valley and from the pit to the pinnacle, to the point of significance. I hope you desire to have that kind of story. And if you truly desire to have that kind of story, there's something you can benefit from that book. You can go and read it. Go and get the book for yourself and read it. Thinking Big. In Thinking Big, I am particularly passionate about Unilever because Unilever brought me from university to Lagos. So Unilever recruited me while I was in my final year university to come in to work for them in Lagos. And when I then saw that during my induction program, they took us through the Unilever companies in Nigeria. Then I got to know that Unilever was not the only liver brothers in Nigeria. They were also the owners, primary owners of UAC. They were the owners of Vono. They were the owners of Vitafoam. They were the owner of Guinness. They were the owners of Nigerian breweries. They were the owners of AT&P, Sapele. There were so many things. They virtually owned everything. So I was interested in the lives of these two brothers who started this business. They were two young brothers. When they started in the business in what they call today Port Sunlight, they started the business there. They were doing laundry soap. So one day they said, let's give a name to this laundry soap. They then put a stamp on it and called it Key. And from there they then did Sunlight. And so now, but they were thinking about the whole world, that they were going to conquer the world. That's the concept of thinking big. And so you find this like a thinking big, and I'm bringing that on now onto the life of Joseph. Like I was saying, I was a spoiled brat because he wasn't the youngest child who should be staying with the father. Ideally, it's the youngest child. In my own house, it's my youngest child I was staying along. But the younger brother Benjamin was going with the other brothers, going to, doing shepherding and all that. But this boy was always hanging around his father. But one thing was different between him and those others. Outside being like a spoiled brat, but he was a man with vision, a man with big picture. So when Ben Carson wrote about this thinking big, actually my mind goes to this gentleman, Joseph. He moved from being, so that itself was what, because he was thinking big, and of course what you think in your heart is what ultimately you dream about. You see so many people dreaming, in their dream they said somebody was chasing them. Go and check their life. Maybe they are watching African magic. They are watching all kinds of people carrying cutlass inside these things. And in the night, they'll be dreaming and the cutlass, somebody will be chasing them. And they'll come to them and come to pastor, please, somebody was chasing me in the night. What were you watching? So this boy could dream and could envision a great future because of his condition of his heart, the kinds of things he was. He was under the father looking at the greatness in the life of his father. And we're looking at things. So thinking big is about your state of, the way your heart grows and then in some way transforms your mind to begin to see a big picture ahead of you. And you require faith to get there, not fear. So that is what I want to talk about in terms of thinking big. No wonder the Bible says that as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. So if you think small, if you have a heart of the thinking small, like the 10 spies, who are supposed to be leaders, because they were the 10 leaders of their 10 tribes, and they went in and they saw the same grasshopper. That's what ultimately you become. But the other one said, we know we can conquer these things. Joshua and Caleb. And they arrived in the promised land. Thinking big is all about whatever you imagine you can create. Whatever you imagine you can create. Whatever you create, what happens? You can reproduce. So whatever you think, you can create. Whatever you create, you can reproduce. Therefore, the critical limitation to achievement of man is the level of imagination that he has. And that level of imagination conditions his attitude and vice versa. It's a reinforcing circle. It is the same with organizations. The organization that seeks excellence to make a difference is usually driven by imagination. There is nothing else. They imagine a future that is big, a future that is great, a future that is whatever. And when imagination has a way of moving in the realm of the spirit, there's something it does. Imagine, when you imagine, there's a movement in the realm of the spirit that begins to release resources towards achievement of what you've imagined. And that's why you will see what writers wrote about imagination. He said, you see, what you need to succeed in life is 10% imagination, 90% perspiration. But you find people who don't have that imagination, they are not prepared to perspire. Thinking big requires you spending that 10% in the point of imagination. For believers, their point of imagination is when they then seek God's face in prayer early in the morning. So they pray 10 minutes to 10, a tenth of the day. If you have 12 hours, maybe 1.5 hours, maybe 2 hours, and you then go in. That is the time to imagine. That is the time to seek God's face. That's the time to think about things that whatever, and you then do the rest. But what do they find in the life of so many ministers? You see somebody, he said, I prayed. He said, I've studied the word. Somewhere he's still lying down inside the church. He said he's rolling there because God has to hear his prayer. And at the end of the day, he doesn't move beyond wherever. So, after you got the inspiration, you are now to jump out of your bed and do what you have imagined. You have to do. So the place of doing is a place of manifestation of the imagination. So whatever you imagine you can achieve if you are prepared to do what you have imagined. Imagination seeks for better ways and better things every time. Anybody who imagines is always seeking for better ways and better things every time. Think about the electric bulb, the telephone, the airplane. All these are either a means of giving light, a means of speaking, dialogue, a means of communication from one point to the other. There's always a better way every time. And they are all a product of imagination. Somebody imagined them. So what are you really imagining in your life? What are you imagining in your ministry? What are you imagining in your call? Because your imagination will determine ultimately what you focus on. And what you focus on will determine the level to which you get to in the wedding place. Or even not even climbing anywhere in the wedding place. Whether you are remaining in the valley. Not the valley of Beraka, because in the valley of Beraka there's also some blessing there anyway. But there are some valleys we actually should call them pit. It is the level of imagination that will determine actually what you do. And whether you are going to be in the pit or be on the top of the mountain. So, power of imagination is very important. Very, very important in thinking big. Early mover advantages went to the people who imagine and commercialize those products first. The products are indicated. Telephone, plane, electric bulb. Those who imagine them first, they got early mover advantages. That is why it's important. Early mover advantage is always for people who imagine things, who imagine bigness, who imagine whatever that is. There's always an advantage for you in life. You always have an advantage over everybody. Imagination, it gives you an advantage. So if you want to be a man of an advantage, you are moving ahead. You are moving ahead. What you'll be asking God, help me so that I imagine what I can imagine. It's not a question of going to be rolling down, rolling in somewhere. And there's an altar call. You are rolling there throughout the day. There's something you are not imagining anything. You are not telling God what you want. And at the end of the day, you begin to just wonder. So imagination thrives on the capacity to conceive ideas. Power of ideas. Whatever I imagine we can achieve if we demonstrate exceptional commitment to it. Whatever we imagine, we can achieve. Now, on Ben Carson, okay, he's still a secretary. I think he's a secretary of of inland, whatever he's doing in the years today. It's actually for the cities, inner cities, helping the inner cities. Ben Carson, who himself is a neurosurgeon. Now, let me just take a bit of when thinking big. It dangerous as an acronym to help people to understand how to move themselves from the bottom onto the mountain top, from a lower ground onto a higher ground, from an eaglet onto a higher ego. So, and he gave the acronym, think big. T means talent. Talent. Are you talented in an area where you want to do things? How do you build a talent? How do you use a talent? Every single one created by God has a talent. All you need to do to sharpen that talent. Everyone has a talent. So there's nobody without talent. That is why the woman who's a husband, died a prophet. So many prophets die like that. So many ministers die like that. Hungry, their children are borrowed and all that. That's a man of God, died in poverty. And then they wanted to come and take the children because of the debt, to take the children away. And the wife was then crying to another prophet, see what is happening to us. They said, what do you have in your hand? What do you have? He said, we don't have anything except a little pot of oil. Everyone has something. Okay, what did the man of God tell him? So let me just show you this in Ben Carson, Thinking Big. It's the number one talent. Everyone has a talent, Then number 2H means T, honesty. Are you an honest person? Number 3, the I, insight. Insight is about, when I do talk about insight, it's about a power to envision the big thing. That's insight. The power to envision. We generate the power of ideas. And then, nice. I have spoken that again and again and again. I preach on nice everywhere I go. Be nice to people. Just be nice. Smile. Be nice. And if you are nice, you sow nice, you throw it out as you sow, people are also nice to you. If you are a wicked person, people return wickedness to you. What you sow, you reap. Be nice. Then number 4, there, 1, 2, 3, yes, nice. Then K, thinking big. K there means knowledge. In other words, if you want to be into cinematography, for instance, you need knowledge in cinematography. If you want to be a graphic artist, you can't just be a graphic artist without the knowledge. What are you doing about it? I remember the other day my wife was encouraging some youth to go and get some skill. Some youth to take certain jobs. Those youth, they refused to. Council, only one of them took it. They refused to. And every Sunday, that day we are hungry. That day we are hungry. Of course, we got a house for them. The church pays for the house. But we are telling them, make a future for yourself. Do something for your life. Sunday, that day, until you give a 500, give that. So you are asking for bread. Think knowledge, get knowledge. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. So when I was then pastor in the UK, what did I do? Because when I was pastor here in Nigeria, I didn't go to Bible school. The first thing I did was to go to Bible school, Foursquare Bible School. I got 2 certificates. I got a diploma in theology, and I got a diploma in biblical studies. After that, I got an admission to do a master's in Trinity in the US. So to do a master in biblical studies. So the knowledge, I'm able to organize the way I preach. It's not that I'm a better Christian. It didn't make me a better Christian. But it also actually made me a better preacher. So the way I organize my discipline, because I then went to theological seminary, and then the way they organize materials. So that is the issue about knowledge. Get knowledge. They put books, reading. And you would have seen that, in my discussions, I talk to you about books I've read and those things. Those books, they enlarge your mind. The Bible is number one. But there are other books that complement the Bible. You can get, and those who have helped to illustrate certain biblical things that sometimes a bit difficult. I have a friend who says he doesn't read Revelation. He says the thing is too hard for him. Revelation. I have a friend who said, no. He says it's too hard, and sometimes what he reads in Revelation is very frightening. He'll be afraid. Says so he doesn't read. But now he reads books written by people on Revelation that simplify Revelation. So he enjoys it by reading that. That's what knowledge, that's what book is about. So thinking big, T is a talent, H is honest, I is insight, N is nice, K is knowledge, B is books, I is in-depth knowledge. You see, there are some where you just get superficial knowledge, but there are some areas you need in-depth knowledge. And that is where I did my second doctorate. I want to do it on what we call resilience. I wanted a deep knowledge. For 8 years, I was working on resilience. Resilience. How do you overcome adversity? In-depth knowledge in that area. How do you overcome adversity? At the individual level, at the family level, at the organizational level. You mean I'll go and spend 8 years of my life studying something, just resilience? There are so many people who say you are wasting your time. But I know what is done for me, personally. So when they then put there in-depth knowledge, so even in all this knowledge, you need somewhere where you have something very deep. And finally, the thinking big is God. That everything that you do should be anchored on God. Should be anchored on His divine instruction, on the principles enunciated by Him in His Word. And that thinking big, Ben Carson, that is what has driven Ben Carson from a non-entity to being the best neurosurgeon ever to be produced in the world. I will encourage you to go and read the book, but I've given you a bit of it. So when you recognize your talents and use them appropriately, you will rise to the top of your field and you will rise to the top of your discipline. If we live by the rule of honesty, we can go far down the road of achievement. If we observe and reflect and commit ourselves to giving our very best on it, we will come out on the top. If we are nice to others, others will respond to us in the same manner. And we can give our best. If we make every attempt to increase our knowledge in order to use it for the human good, because so all those knowledge, the other day, Reverend Lodi was telling me, Dr. Lodi says, I said, my son, you mean you have more degrees and more this than myself? So it's a good thing. And because Paolo, I think he has 5 degrees. Okay, he's a lawyer. He had a degree in law, had a degree in marketing, MSc in marketing, bachelor's in economics, yes, and all that. He has all those things. And so when he was, he said, my son, you have more degrees. It's not just about degrees. It's about increasing your knowledge in every area. Degree is worthless without knowledge. In order to use it for the human good. So that knowledge, what are you using it for? I use it for teaching. I use it for building capacity in people. I use it for building capacity even in myself. It will make a difference in us, in our world, when we do that. If we commit ourselves to reading, to increasing knowledge, only God can limit how far we go. Nothing can limit us. It's only God. And God is not going to limit us if we are doing His will. If we develop in-depth knowledge and integrity, it will enable us to make a difference in innovation and help to make a better world. If we acknowledge God and acknowledge the need for Him in all that we do, He will help us to be the best we can in our walk with Him and in every area of our life. This is principle that cannot be violated. So friends, go ahead and be a great leader. Go ahead and think big about your life. Anchor it on God. Anchor it on God. And when you anchor the God factor, is the foundation of all that you do, you see that your life will move from the minimum to maximum. From the pit to the mountaintop. That is where I end today. I want to thank you for watching. Until I come your way again, may the Lord bless you. And bye-bye. Bye-bye. God bless you.